Okay, we are
Hi.
recording. Everyone, I want you to meet my guest. He's from Iran. He's in Rasht, Iran. His name is Arman,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm very thrilled to have him today. Hello, how are you?
I'm fine. I'm thrilled either, and I'm so happy to be representing Iran and veganism in Iran to you and your audience. So thank you
Now,
for having me on your show.
thank you for being here. I'm thrilled. To give a little background on how we became acquainted is I actually got a hold of your fiance.
Yeah,
She does vegan baking there. She has her own
yeah,
business, right?
yeah.
Okay. And I actually got in touch with her through Instagram asking if she'd like to be a guest, but she wasn't very confident on her English, so she recommended that I speak to you, and you
Yeah.
got in touch with me right away, and I very much appreciate that.
Thank you, thank you. I really like it to be here representing Iran.
So what I want to do, Armand, is I would like to show where you are on the map. This is always a
Hmm.
tricky part for me is sharing my screen. I have a problem
I've
every
seen
time
the
I do it.
previous one, so I know how is it gonna end up being on this thing.
Okay, so Chrome tab. I think I got it this time. Tell me if you see it.
Oh,
Uh, do you see it now?
yes, I'm seeing it. Yes.
Awesome! I did it. All right. So,
Good job.
so there you are on the world map, and there is Iran.
Hmm.
So
Yes.
I want to tell a little bit to the audience about where you're at. Iran is also called Persia.
Yeah.
It is bordered by several countries.
Yeah.
That would be including Armenia, Azerbaijan, Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iraq. I think I've probably missed a few, um, but you are surrounded by many countries. It's one of the
Yeah.
world's oldest civilizations,
Yeah.
and it has a population of over 80 million.
Yes.
Now, a little bit about the city that you're in. Rasht is the capital city of the Galan province, which you guys have provinces. We have states, but
Yeah.
you have provinces there. And it's
True.
known as the City of Rain. And the
Yeah.
largest city in Iran's It's the largest city in Iran's Caspian coast with a population of about 700,000 as of the 2016 census. So I couldn't find one other than that. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen and we'll
Mm-hmm.
get back to us.
Sure.
So, with all that said about where you're from, I want you to tell us about you. Introduce yourself. Tell us more about
Mm-hmm.
yourself. Let us know what you're involved in.
Okay, so I'm Arman, as you mentioned. I'm 26 years old. I've been vegan for about 4 to 5 years. I started being vegan in 2016, September, and it's been the best years of my life ever since. And
That's wonderful.
yeah, I have a master in MBA, and I'm currently working for a company, a vegan company, which produces foods and any vegan substitutes to Iranian people. Um, Famous dishes and famous foods.
That's awesome. So tell me, what kind of uh, products does the company make?
Hmm. They are categorized in four different types. We have vegan substitutes for dairy products, but they're all based on soy products, not almond or any kind of other, because the company is solely based on soy and non-GMO soy, not the crappy soy. We can make vegan substitutes for meat products, any kind of meat. We can make substitutes for fast food kind of products like sausage, like bologna, gluna. And we can also make ready to use stews, which are mainly Persian, like famous, popular Persian stews that we
Oh,
make.
stews.
And
Yes.
yeah,
Nice.
yeah. And people can bring them these stews with themselves to their trips, to their parties, and you may go to a friend's house who is not vegan, but you can represent your kind of vegan stew to them, and they can see a glance of how vegan stews can be made, can be eaten, and maybe they like it, and maybe someday they'll go vegan too, knowing this.
That's awesome. Now,
Yeah.
do you have any sort of activism that happens there? Any kind of animal rights activism, or is it um, that you do
So
outreach
I've
through
seen,
potlucks or anything like that?
mhm. So I've seen your previous episodes on your show. People from Ghana, people from Mongolia, people from all countries
Well,
around the
that's wonderful. I'm
world.
glad you watched.
Oh, yeah. I educated myself on your interview before coming on your show. So I think that they were more of an activist than me. And then
Okay,
there's a reason to it, because physical activism in Iran is kind of so hard and like prohibited, because if you gather your vegan friends and you go to the streets, then maybe police will suspect that you are doing something political or against the rules, and that may turn up so bad.
sure.
So the whole activism scene in Iran in veganism terms is, I can say, solely based on the internet, like
Okay,
Instagram, like a popular application called Telegram. I don't know if you know this app or not, but it's the most
I have
popular.
heard of it, but I don't know anything about it. But I mean, internet activism is still activism. So
Yeah, it's pretty
you
much.
know,
And there have been a lot of progress in this scene inside Iran. Like when I made the decision to go vegan like 4 or 5 years ago, there weren't any products, there weren't any facilitators to go vegan, but it's amazing and it's beyond imagination how has things changed in these 5 years. And that's really dependent, that have been dependent on this activism that is going on internet, because people in Iran are so connected to each other via internet. There are more freedom on internet. They can say or they can tell themselves things that they can't like say on real life, on real streets. So it's very important to be active on internet in this matter.
yeah, sure. And I mean, it's going to only grow from there.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
so let me
So
ask
my
you, where are you?
activism, sorry. So my
No, go
activism
ahead. Go ahead.
started as I volunteered to this vegan company because they were like nowhere to be found on internet. So I volunteered, and I rang the CEO and owner of this company, and told him that I voluntarily, like for no money, I can do you some good things on internet to do some campaigns, do some adverts for you, like make an Instagram page, make a Telegram channel. And fortunately they were happy to do so. And it began there, but then it became my main job now, fortunately. And I'm happy to do so. I'm happy to be contributing to my vegan society this way.
That's wonderful. That's absolutely
Thank you.
wonderful. You know, we
Yeah.
need products in every corner to make it more accessible for people
Yeah.
because this whole the whole idea of this series was to see, can you be vegan where you live? Is it
Mm-hmm.
possible? And some people
Mm-hmm.
have the worry that, like, some people just don't have access to it. Well, you're making access to it, right? You're giving
Definitely.
people access. So that
definitely
in
from all
itself
over the country.
is a form of activism right there because you're bringing accessibility to people to be vegan in your area.
Definitely.
You know,
And the owner of this company is vegan. That's the good point. So we can
yeah.
maneuver on veganism. It's not that you're only thinking about money, selling the stuff, products. It's not the commercial thing only. It's mainly um,
There's actually
growing.
ethics behind it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're all
Yeah,
ethical.
that's wonderful. I love that.
Thank you.
I love that. So,
Thank
where are you originally from? Are you from Rasht?
I'm originally from a town which is 20 minutes away from Rasht. I lived there for my since I was 6 years old. I've come to Rasht, but before that, I've been living in a town called Shaf.
So what's it? Tell us a little bit about the culture and the food where you're at. Because I mean, you grew up close to there, so it'd be similar anyway. So I'll just ask about where in Rasht, how what's it like? What's the food and the culture like there?
So as you showed this Rasht and Gilan zone on your map, north of Iran is connected to Caspian Sea. And this part
Hmm.
of Iran is the most green part of Iran, full of jungles, full of things that you would really love to go spend your time in, all green places. And in this zone, which includes three provinces, Ilan, Mazandaran, and Golestan, these three provinces are so much better and more naturally suited for vegans to live in because they're full of legumes, full of fruits, and even foreign people who come to Iran when they want to write an article about Iran and how they spend their days here being vegan, they say that these three provinces, especially Gilan, which I live in, are are like heavens for uh, vegans because there are a lot of natural things that you can find out in the markets that are vegan. But the other parts of Iran, they're not naturally awesome and great, but you can live perfectly vegan in them because um, there are foods in markets, there are vegan substitutes find like in 90% of the provinces so far. Maybe not the poorest ones, maybe not, because the vegan culture hasn't gone in those provinces. But you can pretty much easily live vegan in Iran. There's no barriers and there's no impossible thing that may stop you being vegan. Nothing.
That's wonderful. That's great to hear.
Hmm.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
people always wonder, is it possible? But the world over, I mean, most people have some sort of bread, whether it be tortillas or flatbreads or any sort of bread that's indigenous to their area. Everybody has legumes, potatoes, some kind of green
Mm-hmm.
beans, usually, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody, even the small towns, have markets, where they sell fresh vegetables every day, stuff like that. So, um, now,
And there
how
are
long have you?
ready to buy cans which are filled with Persian stews in them, and they're
Uh-huh.
in any market. Like if you go to the most in the poorest parts of Iran, you can still find these, which are vegan. Like they are not designed to be vegan, but as they're cheap and they don't have any meats in them, they're 99% of them are vegan. So you can still use them. They are not the most healthy things in the world, but they can provide you vegan food for 1 or 2 meal, and then you can find some good healthy vegan options from natural.
Okay. Okay, that's great.
Yeah,
Now, you told us you've
yeah.
been vegan since 2016, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me, what made you want to go vegan? What happened that made you make
Mhm.
that change?
So as a child, I didn't like meat at all, except for beef grilled on fire, which takes it seriously good. But except for that, I didn't like any kind of meat. I like dairy a lot. I like yogurt. I like milk. Uh, but it was the easiest thing in the world because before making this switch, I was studying about veganism for 6 months. I really did my homework.
What made
I
you do that? What made you look into veganism?
it was always about animals, 100% for
Okay.
animals. Because as a child, I didn't like that scene that my parents or my family members were cutting the slits of or an animal. It was crazy. It was barbaric to me. And it didn't sit right in me. It didn't sit right in me. It didn't sit right
And
in
you
my
had
mind.
family that actually did the slaughtering themselves?
Yeah, they did their slaughter in their house because that was how they were brought up as a child. That's what
Okay.
their parents did. They weren't slaughter men and women. They just did their hens or cows slaughter, and
Sure.
it was terrible. It was terrible. And I knew that at some point, if I had this permission to not eat any meat, I'll do it like this, like overnight. And that was when I got to know about vegan. And the funny thing is, it was 2013 or 14. I was watching this funny comedy movie called The Dictator. Sacha Baron Cohen stars in this movie.
Yes, I've actually seen that. Yeah.
It's hilarious. It's wonderful. So there was this female character in this movie called Zoe, I think, and
Yeah.
she was vegan. That was my first encounter with the word vegan. Anyone who was vegan,
Okay.
and it was
Wow,
so
that's
fascinating to me.
interesting. I wonder if Sasha
Yeah.
Baron Cohen knows that he turned somebody vegan.
Yeah, yeah, we should be thankful for him. Yeah,
You never know what's going to
the
trigger somebody. That's why we need all forms of
yeah,
activism, because you just never know. But go ahead. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. And this woman's movie was so interesting to me because it was all new to me, a new world. Like a door uh, was was being opened to me, and I saw this new movement going there that people are actually vegan and they all eat vegetables. Actually, it was the first time I was like seeing a feminist too there, and yeah, if this was a movie that was meant to be so immoral for the Aladdin thing, but then I saw Zoe there, and it changed the whole perspective there for me, and it was all for the good. It was all for the good. Uh,
Wow. That's
yeah.
really, really interesting. And so what'd you do
Yeah.
from there? Did you you went online and just started looking up more information or
Mhm. Not to straight, not just that day, but it triggered a thing in my mind, in my brain, and veganism got in my mind through that movie. And 2016, I was a vegan, so it took 3 years from that starting point to that moment when I was officially a vegan. Maybe if I didn't see that movie, it will take longer. It would take like 10 years later. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So tell me, how long have you and Hoora, your fiance, how long have you been together?
We've been together for like 4 years.
So you met after you had become vegan. Was she vegan as well at the time?
Uh, about 5 or 6 months after going vegan, I met her. Not in physical world, but through social media.
Okay.
She wasn't a vegan pastry chef back then. She was doing some handcrafts, like any kind of handcrafts that are but she made them with vegan and vegetarian things. Like the logo of vegetarian was put on those handcrafts, and that was how I got into her profile, her page, and yeah, I was so intrigued and so feeling wonderful to see this girl living in my city near me. And I just told myself that, boy, this is your chance. Just go for her. Just go for her.
Well,
So
it seemed
I,
to have worked out for you. So for
yeah,
both of
yeah,
you, and now
I was so lucky.
she has a wonderful, thriving vegan baking business called
Yeah, yeah,
Her Hoora Cakes.
yeah, yeah,
It's Hoor Cakes, right?
yeah.
Is
Actually,
that
the
correct?
username has three O's, but yeah, it's
Three
called
O's. Okay.
Urke. Yeah,
Okay. And you know what? At the end of the or anytime during this video, when I post this video, I will have links to the company you work for. I'll have all social media
hmm,
links that you want me to include, and including her links as well. But that's how I found
thank you.
her, was through Instagram, through Horcakes. I wrote to her there on Instagram.
Yeah,
So all those links will be included underneath the video for anybody to check out any of those companies or any of your social media that they want to. So, are any of your family or friends vegan? I mean, well, obviously you have a fiance that's vegan, so that would be considered a friend. But do you have a larger group? Are your any of your family, have they turned vegan?
my mother actually went vegetarian after I went vegan, so she's been vegetarian for like 3 years. And no other family member. I have a whole bunch of vegan friends, both in physical territory of my city and both in social medias inside Iran, inside Iran, outside Iran, around the globe. So yeah, I have a lot of vegan.
Great. That's wonderful. Now, what does your family think of your veganism? But your family and your friends that aren't vegan, uh, what do they think now? What did they think when you started? What do they think now?
So, as per usual, my family was so hesitant on being vegan. Would you like, will you get the sufficient amount of nutrition being a vegan, or this kind of questions? But thankfully, they weren't like opposed veganism, because I've seen some examples of families that even don't let their children to be vegan. They disrupt them being vegan. They weren't like this, and actually, my mother really helped me with the cooking, because if she wasn't there, and I couldn't have this much variety of foods, because she do this extra step for me. She goes this extra mile, and she cooks another meal. Whatever we are eating, she makes that another stew which is vegan, doesn't have meat, and has my kind of stuff that goes into that stew and makes it full of nutrition. I really thank her for this, and um, yeah, yeah, I really appreciate
That's
and thank
wonderful
her
that she
for me.
supports you in that way. You know, it's good that,
Yeah,
somebody
it's
in the
very
family
important.
will at least
I
be considerate.
have to emphasize this that if somebody doesn't know how to cook at all, or doesn't have this privilege that I have, a devoted family member allowed to do this extra thing for you, to make you happy, to show their importance of you, it's very hard to believe. But when you know cooking, or when you have this family member, loved one, can can be vegan as easy as possible. Like it's not even a big deal. You just cut out all the meat and dairy stuff and you replace them with vegan and tasty and nutrient stuff, and it's wonderful. It's great, and
Well,
it's not a big deal.
what about, I mean, the fact that she's cooking vegan dishes for you and you're involved with a vegan food company and your fiance does vegan baking of a company of her own. I mean, what did they think about the foods? I'm sure they tried them now. What do they think?
They don't try them so much, unfortunately,
They
because
what?
yeah, it's
Oh
it's
my
really
god!
beyond how
I'm
they don't.
sorry.
But yeah, it's a kind of a silly thing because I don't try their food, and in reaction, they don't
Because
want
it
to
has
try my
animals
food.
in it.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
that's there's a big difference there. I mean, it's everybody can eat vegan food.
yeah,
Everyone.
yeah,
But I mean, so they're just basically being kind of stubborn, is what you're
yeah,
saying. Okay, well, I
yeah.
think we all would understand that. That's kind of a universal thing with families, as we all
Mm,
have those family members that will be stubborn. At least your mother's being considerate and cooking you things, which is great.
yeah.
But some of us, all the world over, some of us have problems with family members accepting it at all. They'll
Mm,
give you a hard
mm,
time. They'll refuse to, um, make separate dishes or even, it. We all have that problem across the world with
mm.
our families. So I
Yeah,
think we have that in
yeah.
common. So, I you pretty much, I was gonna say, would you say it's easy or hard to be vegan where you live? But you're saying it's easy. You said all over the country, it's possible
Absolutely possible. Yeah,
because you have plenty of fresh vegetables and stuff like that. The
yeah.
closest I've
Everywhere.
ever been, yeah, the closest I've ever been to you was the year after 9/11. I actually
Mhm.
traveled to Jordan. I went to the Middle East. I went to Jordan
Oh,
and Egypt, and
did you
I
visit
had a
Petra?
Petra.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Oh, definitely. Yes. We went to Petra. So I actually had a friend. I lived in Atlanta at the time. And
Mm-hmm.
I had a friend that was from Amman, Jordan. And
Mm-hmm.
actually, the family he had there is pretty prominent. So even though it was the year after 9/11, I felt like this is my chance to see the Middle East because at that time, the future was so up in the air, like knowing the fighting, the wars that were going on, if I would even ever have a chance to see the Middle East. So I thought, I have the chance, I'm going to do it now. So I went
Mm-hmm.
over and met him, and we stayed for 2 weeks. He had prominent family in Amman. As a matter of fact, I sat at a wedding with the king's cousin, and
Oh,
but we traveled down to the Dead Sea and
okay.
the River Jordan, and then down to Petra, Aqaba, over to Egypt. We went to Cairo, and then we went to Sharm el Sheikh. And now I forgot. Oh, I know what I was getting at. I know what I was getting at because you were talking about
Oh,
produce over there. The
okay.
thing that stood out to me, and I was not vegan at the time, but the thing that stood out to me so much was we went to his family's house, and his mother made this big dish of fresh cucumbers, these little cucumbers they grow over there.
Okay.
Those cucumbers were the most amazing. They were like fruit. They were sweet. They were just so fresh. They were so amazing. I was like, "Oh my god, I've never had a cucumber like this
Oh,
before."
yeah.
And it just made me always think that, like, you never know, like, the produce what try the produce wherever you go because you never know, like, the difference in flavor when it's
Mm-hmm.
grown locally is
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
so amazing, you
Yeah. Yeah.
know? And to this day, I'm still raving about cucumbers. in Jordan, in the Middle East, and I've never had another cucumber like it. Um, I actually crave them. I think about them. That was like 20 years ago, and I still think about it. And it's like, it's so funny. It's so funny. But yeah, if you go to a different place, try their local produce. And
Yeah,
something that I
absolutely.
loved was that dates. They had date trees on the streets, like in the middle of the street, in the median, and
Yeah.
they would have big nets around them to catch the falling fruit, and you could just here we have to buy dates from the Middle East. You could just walk around and just grab one over there,
Oh,
you know?
that's awesome.
Just grab one walking down the street and eat it. you know?
There's so much date in Middle East, so much date because the climate is so suited for raising and growing date.
Beautiful,
So
beautiful weather.
everywhere there, yeah. And there are two very famous and popular foods from the Middle East that you can find them anywhere
Okay.
in the world. I think both of them from the country Lebanon. They are called falafel and hummus.
Oh, yeah.
You surely know about it.
Falafel and
It is
hummus, yes, we
wonderful.
don't have that.
Yeah, yeah. I really like them, and we should be thankful to this country of Lebanon for these two wonderful vegan foods that they have
I
exported to anywhere
agree completely.
around the
Everybody
globe.
loves falafel and hummus. Everybody. And two,
Yeah.
I can't say those are two staples in my house, but I have a really great restaurant or a restaurant around the corner by Middle Eastern people that they do a wonderful falafel, and I'll just go there and get it.
Mhm.
But two staples in my house at all times are dates and tahini. So
Oh, right, right.
I'll put tahini on anything, anything. I love tahini. It's liquid gold. I love it.
It's so lovely. Yeah, I agree with you.
It's addictive. It's you know what? Honestly, it's like a cheese substitute.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's like
definitely.
it's so creamy and cheesy and just like it's got that umami to it and oh, I'm so hungry right now.
Wonderful.
I'm going to go get a falafel after this is over
Awesome. So make it a two.
and then
So
I'm going to
I'll go
drown it in
for dinner
tahini.
and get one.
So we asked about whether it was easy or hard to be vegan. We've discussed that, but what would you say are the struggles of being vegan there?
I think the struggle is always not knowing how to cook vegan food because as the admin of this page for this company, I see a lot of people that even though they buy our products, they don't know how to cook it, and they end up cooking it so bad or so wrong, and they say, "Oh,
Yeah,
it wasn't good, it was terrible," because the art of cooking is delicate. I think if you are gonna enjoy your veganism, you should either know how to cook or at least have one person in your family in your circle that know how to cook so good. So and that's my advice to anybody who wants to go vegan. Just learn, just do your cooking and enjoy it. It's for the good of you.
yeah, I agree with you. I remember I grew up. My mother, she didn't really teach me how to cook. It wasn't until I went out on my own and I started working in a
Mhm.
restaurant, and I worked in a restaurant where they made everything from scratch. I learned a lot from there, and I kind of was self-taught. So when I became vegan, I just started. It was weird. I felt like it was a new world, but really, when you get used to it, it's so much easier because
Yeah.
a lot of times you really can't go wrong. You
Mhm.
know, you can just throw stuff together and it's gonna taste good. Um,
Yeah, definitely.
and it's just a matter of like when you're used to cooking flesh or using dairy, you kind of like you're so used to that that it's hard to learn a new new method, or it with the substitutes that we have nowadays, it's not really different. But
Mm-hmm.
there are some, yeah, there's some nuances to it sometimes depending on what you're making, like tofus and stuff like that. But yeah, it's
Yeah,
just really
because
just
you
learning
don't
new tricks.
know, you are only dependent on the things that are ready to buy outside of your house, and if you don't have any, then veganism may seem impossible to excuse. A lot of people are saying, "Oh, it's impossible to go vegan in my geographical zone. They are all meat eaters." Okay, they are all meat eaters, but you can easily be the perfect vegan in your house if you know you're cooking, right?
Yeah. And what's easier than making a salad? Hell, you know what? I like most of my vegetables. I like them raw anyway. So I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you know what? Actually, I'm not going to tout raw veganism to anybody, but I will tell you, it did help me out that when I first went vegan, I got
Mm-hmm.
into raw foods. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not about the animals with raw veganism. So, I'm not going to tout it, but it did help me with my cooking because
Mm-hmm.
doing raw dishes made when I started throwing stuff together with raw dishes, it was so foreign, it was so weird, like making raw lasagna and stuff like that. I started to realize you don't have to be afraid of food.
Mm-hmm.
Experiment and it would
Like,
come out wonderful. And so I
yeah.
really do credit raw foods for changing my perspective about cooking, which helped with my vegan cooking later, even though it's cooking, it's not raw, but you know what I mean. It made me not be afraid
It
of
gives you the
ingredients. It made me try new
confidence.
ingredients.
Yeah,
What's that?
yeah. Gives you the
You're cutting out
confidence
just
of
so.
starting your journey.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
So how do people view animal rights there in Iran?
I can say pretty much everybody who is vegan inside Iran is at the same time trying to be a vegan activist, but we don't have like perfect vegan activist groups like AV that I know you are affiliated with, because there are no
Yeah,
branches in Iran, because they don't have any activities in Iran, and that's due to some political and like social um, situations that are only unique to Iran. Like we don't have any McDonald's here, we don't have like Disney Channel here, we don't have Netflix here, we don't have MasterCard here. You can't come to Iran with your MasterCard or with your Visa card because there are a lot of sanctions.
really?
Yeah, yeah, that's really hard for Western people to come Iran, not using what they are accustomed to.
Sure.
Only have cash money or like some credit card, which is unique to Iran's system, not universal.
Wow,
To
I
that, we
that's
don't
I've
have.
never heard of that before, so that's very interesting.
Yeah, yeah. So because of that, we don't have these international famous groups inside Iran. And what is being done here is just independently and uniquely done by vegans who are just living here and do it like in a group of two, three, five, 10 people, or just one by one do what they are feeling responsible to. Yeah, no famous groups here. Anonymous for the voiceless.
Sure. Sure. I understand. It's different everywhere. It depends on that is a struggle. It depends on what your limitations are there, your government and stuff like that. Um
Yeah.
so so what would you say your favorite form of activism is? I mean, basically you do it through foods, but what's your favorite form of activism that you do?
I think you know about this guy Ersling Ed is so famous.
Yes. Yeah.
I love his work. He's like the Jesus of veganism to me. He's so calm, and he looks
Some
like
people have
Jesus,
said
right? Yeah.
So
So
you like his online activism? Is that what you're saying?
I like all of his work online, on the streets, the cubes they make, and the talks he has on the streets. People like they put a table and write a sentence, and then they say, "Convince me that I'm wrong." And then there's a great argument there, and the people who talk with him will either convince to go vegan someday in their life, or at least deep down they know that they are wrong, and this guy is saying the truth. So that's a win-win thing for us.
Now, have you thought about doing something like that on your own? Just like like not like a cube of truth where it's a bunch of people or a group of people, but have you thought about like just on your own going out and just having one-on-one conversations and on the street and taping them or videotaping them?
I've thought about it, not taping them, but just doing on my own and doing my bit of activism. I thought about
Sure.
it. Unfortunately, I've not done it yet, but yeah, someday.
Yeah, you don't have to record them. It's great that you're just
Mm,
doing it. But
yeah,
you know that might be very influential in your area if you were to put it
yeah,
on your social
yeah.
media. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I
these
mean that's
days it's
great.
so important to tape them and to upload them on YouTube and these social media. So the outreach will be so much bigger, higher, and it will influence one people. But when you upload it on YouTube, it will influence like thousands of people.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, like you said, that movie, The Dictator, just that little part in the movie is what like flipped a switch for you that turned into
Yeah,
you going vegan years later. You never
yeah,
know who's going to be influenced by seeing you on the street, overhearing a conversation, even if they didn't have the conversation with you. Um, you just never know who you're
yeah,
going to touch. You know
yeah. This is the
that is a good
ground,
thing
and
about social
you'll
media.
just see this plant in the ground, and this ground
Yep.
is the mind of that person, and someday maybe this seed will grow, and then they'll switch to veganism.
Yep, that's what we say. We say planting seeds. Always be planting
Yeah,
seeds.
yeah.
So, I mean, even when I go out and do a Cube of Truth, I let everybody know you're gonna have good conversations. You're gonna have bad conversations. Sometimes those bad conversations stick with people more
Hmm.
than the
Yeah,
good
I
conversations.
agree. I
There was
agree. I agree.
Yeah. I mean, I there was a day that I had a man who worked on the city, it's like a oh god, streetcar. I couldn't think of the word.
Hmm.
We had a city streetcar. He saw us and he stopped to talk to me. He's a great guy. And we had a
Hmm.
wonderful conversation. He was very open minded. He talked about his daughter going to school with a girl who was vegan. He understood what veganism was. He got it. He got that it wasn't a diet. Um, we had a great conversation. But then later, I had a conversation with an Italian man that was very confrontational with me. And he could not disagree with anything I said. He even admitted that, but he still was going to be stubborn and he wasn't going to change his ways, just simply for the fact that he wasn't going to give in. And he had no other reason. He even pretty much admitted that. So it was kind of a very tense conversation with him, but he wouldn't walk away from it. So I knew that when we finally parted ways, that even though that was a tense and frustrating conversation and he said no, he was not going to go vegan when he left, I knew that that conversation was going to stick more with him than the pleasant conversation I had with the other
I was just about to say that. Yeah, 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 yeah.
gentleman.
I have seen a lot of people that when you talk to them about veganism, they are so aggressive. They say a lot of bad things, but then 1 year later, they're vegan and they're just doing the same thing you were doing to them 1 year ago. That's really interesting to me because
Yeah.
that's the
Well,
seed
I
that's
think it's
been
just like one of the
planted in
final
their mind.
yeah, I think it's one of the final stages is the
Yeah,
fighting
yeah.
before you give in. I think is one of the final
Mm-hmm.
stages. So if they're fighting you hard, that means you're close.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree.
So let me ask you, if a vegan visits where you live, where should they go? What dish should they try? And how would they get involved with the local vegans there?
Hmm. So I think anybody who comes to Iran will first visit the capital of Iran, which is Tehran. And Tehran is a great city to be vegan because there are at least 5 restaurants which are exclusively vegan, and there are a lot
Nice.
of vegan, yeah, and a lot of vegan shops, organic shops they can buy from. And I mean, at least half or more than half of the vegan population of Iran lives in Tehran. So that's the obvious city that they should visit and do their time being there. But after that, they can come to the region of Iran where we live, because there are a lot of options here, more naturally than this ready to buy product. But the
Okay.
weather is so nice, and they can enjoy weather and still be vegan so easy. But most of people who come to Iran go to places like Isfahan and Shiraz, and they are the most popular destinations of Iran. And those two cities are thankfully good destinations to be vegan too, because they have vegan restaurants and vegan shops too, and you can easily be vegan in those cities.
So something always comes up is what about alternatives for other things? Of course, we talk a lot about food because it is a major part of being vegan because it's something we do 3 times a day is eat.
Mhm.
But what about all the other ways that we exploit animals, like by wearing them, for example? Do you have alternatives for leather available, stuff like that? Do you have vegan clothing, alternatives for wool or down?
I would say they are not um, made to be alternatives for leather, but they're just cheap products that don't use leather, and you can buy them, and they're not so bad because we use them too as vegans here. So yeah, you can do it. The only thing that may be that may make some problem is this black leather shoes that men wear for like ceremonies and weddings.
Sure. Yeah.
If you buy the cheap ones, they don't look so great, but they're still not leather and vegan. That's the only thing that may make some problems, but still there's something alternative to buy.
And like, what about toiletries, like shampoos and and soaps, maybe cosmetics for women? Do you have vegan friendly products like that available?
The cosmetic products that are being made in Iran are thankfully vegan, not because they are designed to be vegan, but they just don't use animal testing, and they don't go that far. They just put it out there without any testing, maybe. So that's not a problem here. Shampoos and cosmetics.
That's
There are
awesome.
some foreign companies here that, like, my fiance use, like lipsticks and these kind of things that are vegan too, and are foreign, not have any.
Great. That's great. So how do
Yeah.
people, how would they get involved with the local vegans if they came to visit? How would they get in touch or get involved with any sort of local vegans in your area? I would say activism, but you already told us about why the activism is restricted there. But how
Mm-hmm.
would they
Mm-hmm.
find local vegans to meet up with, to get involved with?
I can say if they go to vegan shops in any city that they are spending time in, they'll find somebody who is vegan, and through that person, they can yeah, get together with vegans in that city if they want. And also, like, internet, they can search vegans in Iran in some these keywords and find some rooms and Facebook page and Instagram page and Telegram channels, Telegram groups that
So
are
they do have
run.
vegan groups on social media.
Absolutely, yeah. We have some groups with like 5,000 members. Most of them are vegan or vegetarian. And I have some very precious friends that they spend a lot of time, and they dedicate their time just freely without charging any money guiding people, helping people every day, every night. Maybe it's 3 a.m. in the night and they're still answering these questions from people who want to go vegan or have some problems, have some questions, and you see they're still answering those questions. I want to say their
That's
names.
wonderful.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So maybe someday they'll see this video. I really want to acknowledge
Okay. Go ahead.
their good work. Yeah, I want to thank Ali Bani Assad. He's a top guy in this vegan scene of Iran. I want to say the name of Hamid Delbari. I want to say the name of Kimia Moezi, Fatemeh Dellar. I know this guy whose name is Arvin. Uh, and there are a lot of them. There are a lot of them. But these guys do like sacrifice their time and energy without any money to do voiceovers for documentaries like Conspiracy, like Seaspiracy.
Awesome.
I've watched Seaspiracy, yeah, yeah, yeah. And
That's
they're
wonderful.
top. They're top guys. I wish you could talk to them like right now. They would be beside me or some other way.
Maybe in
But
the future.
yeah, yeah, I
Yeah,
can
maybe.
introduce them to you. And they know English, so they can do this too.
Well, I guess they'd have to if they're going to do a translation, or else
Yeah.
they might not know what they're translating, right? But that would be wonderful. I would love to meet. That's incredible work. Like the guys from Mongolia that I talked to. We're doing translation in Mongolian of the Game Changers. The day that they put that out on YouTube, oh my God, they got so many views in one day. And
Wow.
it just goes to show how many people were just ready and waiting to watch it. They just didn't understand it because it wasn't their language.
Mm-hmm.
And how many people you can reach and that are willing to, that are wanting that information. Um, they just need it in their language. So that's an incredible form of activism in itself, is
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
translate these things into languages that aren't as common, or they usually wouldn't be translated into, and sharing it amongst yourselves. I mean, just wonderful form of activism and outreach right there. I was just
Yeah,
so
yeah. I don't.
blown away at how many views they got in just one day of after they
Yeah,
put out Game Changers in Mongolian.
I
So
watched their episode 12 hours ago. These two Mongolian guys, and
yeah,
I really got impressed. I really got impressed. They were
they're
brilliant,
great guys,
and
aren't they?
yeah, they're funny too. It was a
They
great
were
episode.
very
I really
funny.
liked it.
And
Yeah.
Soyombo is actually a very talented singer. So
Oh,
yeah, he won a singing contest in Mongolia, or was on a singing contest. I think he was the winner in Mongolia, probably about 10 years ago or so. I do know that he has videos up of his singing, and it's very impressive. But yeah, both
yeah. I
of
can
those
remember
guys,
that
wonderful
he
personalities.
introduced a famous singer in Hollywood to you.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
actually did send me her information, but I'm not really sure where to fit her in. I mean, I maybe do something with her at a later date. Maybe if my channel gets a little bit, I just don't feel like I'm big enough for her, because I actually looked her
oh,
up and
don't
oh
say
my
that.
God, she is huge. I don't know how
She
I
is
never
huge, but
heard of
you are
her.
huge too.
What's that?
But you are huge too. You are being a vegan celebrity right now.
But no, I definitely want to talk to her. I mean, it's really nice to those guys. But anyway, we're talking about others. We should continue on here. I wanted to ask you: have you thought about doing like the guy, the gentleman I talked to from Ghana? He was wonderful. He was my first guest. Wonderful guy. What he does
Yeah.
locally is they do a lot of potlucks, and then they talk about veganism to people at the potlucks. Have you done anything like that? Have you thought about doing anything like that? Just doing, or not even a potluck, but when potlucks is when everybody brings food. But if you just do all the vegan food and have people come and share the food and talk about veganism over the food. Have you thought about
Unfortunately,
doing
I've
that?
not done this, but I know some people who own some vegan shops around Iran, and they have done it, fortunately.
Okay.
And I'd like to enjoy them, to join them and do my part too.
Well, that's
There's
wonderful.
this.
So you are involved in that. So
I've not been
that's
involved yet, but I'll try to do it later in the future. There's this really good woman in the city of Tabriz in Iran, and she does this kind of activism so much. She participates in exhibitions, and they have their own room that they introduce people vegan foods, vegan substitutes, and they're doing a great work in the city of Tabriz.
that would
And
be the
yeah,
perfect place to advertise your company. I mean,
yeah,
and
yeah.
for
Pretty much
Hoora
everybody in
to
Iran
advertise their
who's
cake.
vegan. Yeah, I was about to say pretty much everybody in Iran know about this company that I work for, because there are not a lot of companies, there are two or three, and everybody know about.
Okay.
But yeah, advertising is always good to outreach people who don't know about veganism. They may become vegan, and someday they'll be our customers too. But
Yeah.
it's not about customers; it's about promoting veganism.
Yeah, and plus, you know what? It always looks good on a company to do a little charitable stuff, like to help feed
Yeah,
people and stuff like that. It always looks good, and to know that they are ethical
yeah.
behind the company. It is ethics, and that's a wonderful thing. So,
Yeah, we do our bit, and I would say that our company do some charity in the form that if anybody wants to give our products to people who are in need, people who are hungry, people, poor people, and our company will make the price tag to the half. Like if it's 30 tomans, then it will be 15 tomans, right? So it's a with no real profits. That'll just go to charity
yeah,
for
they just do
anybody
it at
who.
cost, just at cost.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's wonderful. That's incredible.
yeah,
That's great. That's a great thing.
yeah.
So, finally, I want to ask you, where would you like to visit one day and learn about veganism there? Have you traveled much at all?
I've never been out of Iran, fortunately,
Okay.
but do you know this place in Thailand called Kopangan?
Okay. I'm not familiar,
There.
no. But in
Oh,
Thailand, you said?
yeah, yeah, yeah. You can write it, or I can spell it for you. It's Koh in space and then Phangan. It's Ko Pangan, but Pangan it's
Okay.
PH.
Yeah. Okay.
Pangan,
I
but it's
had not heard
Pangan.
of it before, but okay.
Yeah, if
So
you
that's
if you search about it, it's like the best, perfect, like heavenly place,
really
island, distinctly located
well.
in
I do
Thailand.
like
Like,
islands, so
yeah, it's the heaven. If you believe in something like heaven, that's the heaven.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
look that up. I'm gonna look
yeah.
that up. I
This
love
island,
islands.
yeah, this island is famous for two things. The most important thing is full moon parties, which have been held in this island for at least 30 years now. And then in the northwestern of this island, there's this area called Sritanu, and this neighborhood is filled with vegan yoga lovers, intellectuals, and hippie kind of people that have resided in this area, and they have all sorts of vegan restaurants. Like there are at least 5 exclusively vegan restaurants there, and tons of restaurants, like 100 restaurants there that have a lot of vegan options, a lot of plant-based dishes, and
So
it's
you've never
beyond
been there. How
imagination.
do you know so much about it? You've really looked this up.
I'm obsessed with it. Like I actually learned about it 3 years ago. If you want to know how much I'm obsessed with it, I'll show you. This is the map of this island. And
Oh,
I
that's
know the
awesome.
map. I know the map. I know everything about
I
it. I
I
can
so
show
hope you get to
places.
visit there then. I do.
Yeah,
I hope you
yeah,
get
yeah.
to visit there and stay
Like
and take a long trip there.
every day when I wake up, it's only because I can work, I can make money, I can make some earnings, so that someday me and my fiance will immigrate there and live our best life in there. Maybe in 10 years, who knows?
That's wonderful. No, I think that's
Yeah,
great. I think that's wonderful. You gotta dream about where you're gonna
I got a dream.
there yeah, exactly. Mine's
You hear? You remember doing this in your previous
yes.
episode?
Oh, you caught that.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Oh, wow. My face kind of hurts from talking to you because I've been smiling, laughing. But
Right.
is there?
Yeah.
So that's really all my questions. Is there anything else you want to tell us about veganism in Iran and Kasht, or anything about that area?
You asked me about a
Or
question
rash? I
on
said Kasht.
how,
I'm sorry.
yeah, on how do people view animal rights where you live. So I think this question wasn't responded from me, so we can talk about it now. Um,
Yeah, go ahead. How do people feel about animal rights there?
I was about to say that there's this universal sense of seemingly loving animal, like they caress animals, they seemingly love them, and cats are so precious to them, dogs are so precious to them, and even if they see a donkey or a cow, they seem to love it. But the strange thing is, and it's so weird, and it's so obvious that this mindset that you love animals in the surface, but at the same time you slaughter them, you eat them, you use their byproducts, you wear them, you exploit them to the fullest. I think this mindset comes from a total brainwash that animal industry has applied on humans through the last century. And it seems ridiculous when you watch it, when you see it from distance, because you
When
see
you
people
finally open your
actually love
eyes
them.
and you step away from
Yeah,
it and look back
yeah,
in, it's just
yeah,
amazing to see that you
yeah,
were a part of that at one time and how
yeah,
clear it is now.
yeah.
Yeah.
These industries have tricked people into thinking that you can love animals, you can be an animal lover, and just eat cows, eat sheep, do all sorts of terrible things to them. But at the same time, if you're just a normal guy and you're crossing the street and you slap a dog in the face or kick a cat, then you are just a lunatic person who should just sent to jail, or a loony bin for this crime, and you are doing crime. At the same time, eating cows is just the normal standard of living. This is
It's
so
amazing, isn't it? It's amazing when you finally your eyes open and you see it and you're like you see everybody walking around blind basically.
yeah.
You know what? It's so wonderful to meet you, and you make Iran sound like such a wonderful place to visit. I would really like to. I hope I get a chance to check it out one day. I have
Yeah.
actually heard a lot of good things about Iran. I believe when I was just a little girl, we had my parents had some friends that lived there, and
Hmm.
they were Americans that moved over there at the time, and I used to hear stories about it and how beautiful it was. And from time to time, I have looked into Iran, and what a wonderful country it is. And
So I know that you don't like California at all, but there are over 2 million
no, and you know
people.
what? That's really funny. You know what's so funny about that? When I was
Yeah.
in Jordan and we went down to Petra, the areas that we had to travel through, the desert areas we traveled through, actually California kind of reminds me of. But
Yeah.
at the same time, nothing like it. Because I'll be honest with you, even though it's not my type of climate, I'm more of an island person, like we were talking about.
Yeah.
The, and there was really jagged, like drops and hills and like mountains and really harsh terrain. At the same time, there, and I'm, I'm not a religious person.
Hmm.
There was a feeling
Really.
of God there. I don't know how else to describe it, but there was a feeling of like a God being present when you were there, when you were in the middle of nowhere and
Hmm.
you just looked at this terrain that was so harsh and at the very same time so extremely breathtaking and
Hmm.
so
Right.
silent, scary and serene at the same time. It was every emotion and every scenario you could think of, and there's no other way. Even though I'm not religious, there
Hmm.
was a sense of God there. That's how it felt. I cannot describe it in any other way, you know?
Yeah.
And so, even though I don't there's no feeling like that in California.
So I was about to tell you that there are over 2 million Iranians living in California, just in California.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Don't
have
they
their
have
own
some
neighborhood.
I don't watch TV really, but don't they have like some like Shahs of
Yeah,
Sunset Boulevard or
yeah,
something like
yeah,
that?
yeah.
Yeah.
I think
I don't watch.
it's crappy reality show. I didn't like it, but yeah, there are a lot of them in those areas.
The only TV I watch is like old reruns of Andy Griffith and Monk and Supernatural. Anything if it's Supernatural, I'm
Hmm.
watching it.
Right.
Just so happens that Supernatural is on TV when I get home from work, and if I happen to think about it, if I don't jump on the computer first, I'll turn it on and I'll watch my boys and. But yeah, I used to watch The Walking Dead a lot, but I don't know. Are they even on anymore? I don't even know. Do you get The Walking Dead
I,
over there?
I think they're on. Yeah.
Do you get that over
I,
there?
yeah, we can download it for free. Can you believe it?
What do you think of those kind of shows?
They're awesome. We love him in Iran.
You
We
like
love
them?
them in Iran.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
They started that show, they started filming in Atlanta. I used to live in Atlanta. I actually have friends that have
Oh,
uh, worked on the set and met some of the people and hung out with them and stuff like that because they were all living in Atlanta for a while they were doing that. Of course, I
it's
wasn't
a
there, but
it's a cool one. It's really amazing how they have created this TV series, The Walking Dead, with all those zombies, people born. Ah,
lots of makeup, lots and lots of makeup.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, that's really all the questions I have for you. But you've given us such a great picture of Iran and how easy it is and very possible it is to be vegan
Hmm.
there. And
Yeah,
I'm gonna again give I'm gonna give links to your company that you work for, your social media links, as well as Hoora and her business as well,
yeah.
her baking business. And I hopefully people will check that out. Armand, I really hope we keep in touch.
Thank you.
It was great to meet you. Very interesting. I hope that one day I'm the type of person that wants to travel the world, and I'm hoping that one day, maybe, I'll get to meet you and your fiance, or maybe wife by then, and and
Absolutely.
maybe we. Who knows? Maybe we can even meet up in Thailand. Who knows?
That will be most exciting thing.
Once you move there and you have a
I love.
house and you're living there, I'll come and visit. How's that?
That's perfect. It's a perfect scenario.
Okay. All right. So we've been on here for over an hour. I think that's perfect. I had a great time talking to you. I'm going to go ahead and let you go. I know it's later in the evening for you there. So I'm going to wish you a great rest of your evening. All right. Take care
Okay.
now and have a great night,
Take
okay?
care.
All
Thanks for
right.
having
Bye-bye.
me. It was such a pleasure to be on your show. Bye bye.
It was a pleasure having you. Good night. All right. So thank you so much, Arman. So wow. So what a great guy. I really enjoyed talking to him. Very interesting stuff. Wonderful things happening in Iran. And happening around veganism and to making it more accessible to people. Next guest, I'll let you know a little bit about it. We're going to be going to Slovenia. So if you have any interest in that area of the world, please join me. Thank you for watching these. I feel kind of weird because I know I'm not actually talking to anybody right now. I'm recording and it's strange. It's different, but it's going to feel that way for a while. Anyway, I love you guys.